Morning, everyone. So glad to have you here. I'm glad I could play the prelude for you and then switch scenes behind me and be at home in a flash. So I hope that everyone survived the holidays and the new year. And I don't know about you, but I'm very happy to be here. So I hope you are too. So, we always do this thing where we say hello and wave and all this. But right now I'm looking at my screen and not one person is smiling. Do you know how awful that is? Can everyone like give me this big cheesy grin? Okay, I mean, like, show teeth. I want to see teeth. Can you grin? Okay, that's it. That's it. Act like you're 2 years old again and you're being asked to take yet another picture. So, okay, that's enough. So anyway, thank you for coming to this morning's service. I'm Brad Connor. I'm the music director here for those who just happen to not know that. I've got some announcements for you. All these things will be in the upcoming Parishioner, which will come out sometime this week, and they're also on the church website at uubedford.org. This coming Tuesday, we have our usual COVID testing. You will need to sign up for that testing, and it has proven to be very popular as of late. So make sure if you're planning to come to the church and be tested that you have signed up. The second thing is that next Sunday service will be a multi-age service called Imagine Where We Can Go. And it's led by our very own Reverend Annie Gonzalez Milliken and by our Faith Development Director for Children, Deborah Weiner. Can you wave, Deb? There you go, see? So that will be next Sunday service. Come, it's going to be a delightful service, a very good second service of the new year to help lift our spirits. Today, the faith development programs will resume. In fact, as of now, the pre-K, K, and grade 1 kids started at 9:15 this morning. And then we have grades 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, and 7. They're beginning at 11:45. And the OWL program will begin tonight at 6 p.m. The junior youth group, which are grades 6, 7, and 8, will begin meeting again on Wednesday at 6 p.m. If you have any questions, make sure that you contact Deb Weiner. Again, you can reach her through the website, or you can send her a chat right here. And there she is. And so actually, Owl Taking Flight is next Sunday evening. Thanks, Deb, for correcting that. Finally, on January 19th, we are having a time for remembrance, a blessing for the future. It is a socially distanced, masked event. It will be outside. It will be a meditative event to remember those in the past year who have died of COVID or other illnesses, as well as praying for blessings upon the new administration on the eve of the presidential inauguration. We will also ring the church bell for those who have passed, and we strongly hope that you will come and be part of that meaningful service. So with that said, the next thing in our service is the unison affirmation. Please join me in saying the unison affirmation together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor, y ayudamos los unos a los otros. And now, please join us in our joys and sorrows. Lori Groves of the Lay Pastoral Care Team will lead us.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lori Groves, and as Brad says, I'm with the Lay Pastoral Care Team. At this time, if you'd like to express a joy or a sorrow, you can raise your hand in the participants section.
Now, just before the service began, I called attention to a misnomer in our order of service. It says that there will be a video interlude. And while that is correct, in fact, this is a new liturgical innovation at the First Parish in Bedford. And we are having now a dance and bio break interlude. This goes on for several minutes. And so we really don't want to see you sitting there like lumps. But this is an opportunity for you to get up and dance, and we'll be watching you and expect to see you dancing, or you can go take in some liquid or release some liquid, do whatever you need to do to sustain yourself for the next few minutes. But we're going to begin with Elton John's I'm Still Standing, and we'll segue into the Ramones' I Wanna Be Sedated. Everybody dance. So I'm wondering if having several minutes of dance interlude might become a regular part of our liturgy. And I'm not sure if I'm kidding or not. A dance interlude might not be a bad thing. It might be just what we need. Every once in a while from the pulpit, I try to address the state of our union and consider, how are you? How am I? How are we? Alas, there are an awful lot of things I'm not sure about these days. With Elton John, am I still standing? Or with the Ramones, do I just want to be sedated? It is a tough call. Before leaving the house, just to assure himself that everything was where it belonged, Austin Powers used to cross himself. Spectacles, testicles, wallet, and watch. This sermon, likewise, asks if all is where it belongs. But hey, we're not leaving the house. It is pretty obvious all is not where it belongs. And so maybe it's time for another nap. You recall the joke about the guy who jumped off the roof of a skyscraper? Somebody at the 32nd floor saw him fly by and yells, "How's it going?" The jumper yells back, "So far, so good." I think that's how I am. That's how we are. So far, so good. You may want to, however, consult Abby Hafer's letter to the editor in today's Boston Globe, because she has some commentary about the reality of gravity. And then there's also the old story about the Chinese farmer who gets a horse which soon runs away. A neighbor says, "That's bad news." The farmer replies, Good news? Bad news? Who can say? The horse comes back and brings another horse with him. Good news, you might say. The farmer gives the second horse to his son, who rides it, then is thrown and badly breaks his leg. So sorry for your bad news, says the concerned neighbor. Good news, bad news, who can say? The farmer replies. In a week or so, the emperor's men come and take every able-bodied young man to fight in a war. The farmer's son is spared. Good news, of course. The state of our union, who's to say? How am I? How are we? As well as can be expected, I guess, which is to say, not well. How are you, people ask me. My usual response is, well, that is an awfully personal question. I'm not depressed, I say, but then I can't say I'm not depressed. People wonder what this year is like for me, knowing that I will retire in June. There are days, I tell you, when being all done with this ministry yesterday will not be soon enough. And there are also days when things are so real, even when they're hard, that I can't imagine doing anything else. For the most part, as individuals and as a church, we are surely battered, but yes, mostly, we're still standing. Even before this pandemic a year ago, I was pursuing a spiritual theme of seeing that which is unseen, naming that which is invisible in ourselves, our griefs, our wounds, our gifts and strengths, hidden even unto ourselves, as well as all that and all who go unseen in the world around us, noticing those excluded and forgotten. When you have more than you need, we sang, build a longer table, not a higher wall. Speaking to you this morning from our meeting house, I am so glad and humbled and sad that Maria has entrusted us with her safety and that she is now the constant caretaker of our meeting house. And here now in this sanctuary, I am so glad and humbled and sad that just before we closed, remember, we managed to honor the woman enslaved by our first minister, Nathaniel Bowes, and that her name is now on the wall of our sanctuary. Her name was Nan. Say her name aloud. Nan. Say it again. Nan. Laurel wreaths are on the sanctuary wall next to Nan's name, but these are not laurels for us to rest upon. In the work of diversity and inclusion, we still have far to go to widen our circle of concern. Ever and always, it is the role of spiritual community to reveal, to be revelatory, and to shout revelation. In church speak, that would be called an epiphany. The pandemic makes our epiphanies acute. Strengths and weaknesses, once unnoticed, are now exposed. It is a strength that we gather week after week in such high numbers. So far, so good in this God-forsaken medium. After a Times columnist recently pronounced Zoom to be God-forsaken, there was a hue and cry among many UU ministers who fiercely affirmed that they had indeed encountered God on Zoom. Whatever. It is a strength to see our children and families singing and celebrating over the holidays. It is a strength that we still take as good care of one another as we do, though I worry about parishioners I haven't seen or heard from or reached out to for months. Many of them people I actually like a lot. Our faith development programs for kids and for youth, OWL, our choirs, for God's sakes, speaking of God, they continue to meet weekly, small group ministries, parents, book groups, action and reflection groups, our lyceum, all these are still standing. And it is a strength that our caring reaches so far beyond ourselves. Recently, I attended an online evangelical workshop about how to be a comeback church in 2021. There's a lot to say about evangelicals, but I'm always curious about what they're thinking. This pandemic, these evangelicals assert, make almost every church smaller, which therefore requires a focus on core purposes, the elimination of complexities that overwhelm, and that we accept some subtraction in service to the greater good. This does not mean withdrawal from one another or from our world. One key to comeback, this workshop alleged, is that comeback churches will devote 40% of a church's energies, volunteering, staffing, finances, everything, to purposes outside and beyond the church. Now, don't get stuck on this 40% part. Who knows how that gets calculated? It's the idea that counts. It is a strength, and I am proud that for the last 10 months, we have provided a weekly replicable model of universal COVID-19 testing that has served more than 2,000 people, including $44,435 worth of free and subsidized testing for those with financial hardship, and including 172 free tests for Bedford teachers and other town employees. Indeed, you could say that our model may now have spurred our town into following suit. I am also proud of our unwavering commitment to immigration justice, not only for Maria, but for so many others. I am proud that our environmental justice team has taken a lead in advocating not only for these issues, but also for critically important transparency in the Massachusetts legislative process. It is a strength that our First Parish finances are as stable as they seem. So far, so good. This pandemic has also exposed our weaknesses and challenges. Because of so many deaths and people moving away, our membership has taken a hit. Just this week, I am reaching out to more than 100 people who are sometimes or often among us, but who are not yet members, asking them to consider signing our membership book, even virtually. Our membership is one thing that prospective ministers after me will note when they consider Bedford. And I want to hand us off as strong and undiminished as possible. Another strength is that we have so many heroes among us, people who, like Marge Piercy has said, submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. This includes ordinary heroes who show up, volunteer, pay their pledges, reach out, and help out as best they can. Yes, we need and love our heroes, but there is a downside to heroism, and that is that we are often deficient systemically. Our committees, policies, procedures, our leadership cultivation and training can be weak, so that if a hero ages out, drops out, or gets overwhelmed, as we all do, systems often are not in place to carry on. This, by the way, also reflects my leadership. I am stronger at inspiring, occasionally being heroic, and cheering your frequent heroism, and I am weaker at the slow, steady nourishment of sustainable systems. All this will be quite evident and not at all hidden over the next 6 months as we face transition in ministry, in faith development for children and families, and in the nerve center of our parish administration. And oh yes, we'll probably need a new sexton, a custodian as well. Now, your board and leadership are awake to these changes, and there are plans and timetables and task forces, to which I say, so far, so good. Just to be clear, after June, I will no longer be your minister, nor will I do ministerial things, nor will I even listen to, let alone have anything to say about, your belly aching about this church. I am starting to clean out my office now, and that will take me a while. Assuming you'll have a 2-year interim minister after me, I actually think this timing is pretty good. No matter what, even were I not to retire, First Parish inevitably faces what will be a couple of years of transition and recovery from the PTSD of this pandemic. To explicitly name the next 2 years as an interim period is to call it what it actually will be. Sue and I hope to stay in Bedford, possibly rent the parsonage for a time, but after June, I will be scarce around First Parish. This transition will be abrupt, anticlimactic, underwhelming, and accompanied by less than orchestral fanfare. Good news? Bad news? Who can say? So let's look at this as another pandemic blessing, like the opportunity for more naps and a less frenetic pace. We can do this. And I'm talking to myself here as well. And so far, so good. The thought to ponder this morning, maybe you noticed, was something about the Pantone Company's Color of the Year. This is an annual advertising gimmick done by this graphic arts and fashion consulting business. They actually chose two colors for 2021, ultimate gray and illuminating, a kind of pale yellow. Gray, I guess, is our present pandemic reality. And the yellow is the vaccine and the new normal on the horizon. These colors, the Pantone Company says, are rock solid and optimistic, a color combination that offers resilience and hope, encouragement and uplift essential to the human spirit. Yeah, whatever. The last time they chose two colors instead of one, just by the way, was 2016, when it was rose quartz and serenity, pink and blue, basically representing gender fluidity. I say again, yeah, whatever. Gray and yellow, is it bad news or good news? Who's to say? In this State of the Union, I say we're all in for a long and likely brutal gray stretch. But so far, so good. And I am not without some illuminating yellow hope that all of us may experience a soft landing. May it be so, gravity notwithstanding. That's what I have to say, and we're going to have a rejoinder now from Deb Weiner.
Thanks, John. One of John Gibbons' strengths, as you have just witnessed, is his storytelling. And here's another one, an old Yiddish story that you may know. A young man lives in a little house with his wife, his children, and his mother-in-law. And they are happy, but he wishes the house was a little bigger. He goes to the rabbi to complain. The rabbi successively sends the man back to the house to first invite the neighbors in, then the chickens and the cow as well. It doesn't take very long for the man to be overwhelmed and to return to the rabbi complaining that he is going meshuggah, losing his mind, at which point the rabbi tells him to send the livestock and the neighbors home. This, he says, will solve all your problems. And back in the house, maybe a little too small, but it's his, with his children, his wife, and the Makatenister, the mother-in-law, he realizes that it could always be worse and decides to count his blessings. Now, I'm fond of reminding myself that it could always be worse, but I have to say I am pushed to the limit right now. No religious leader has been prepared for leading during a pandemic, and we are all trying one thing after the other, guided by instinct, observation, and more than a little hope, to see what kind of spiritual spaghetti will stick to the wall when we throw it there. Transitional religious leaders are schooled in working with congregations in the midst of change. We tend to like shifting environments, actually enjoy some uncertainty and change. Our job as leaders is, in many senses, about trying to guide congregations through the movement from what was to what will be. Although I do like this liminality, I have to say, I sure do wish we could get through this to some known and solid ground. I want to shout to the heavens, okay, I've learned plenty. Thank you very much. And I will remember it now. Can I please just go see my friends in one room or go to a restaurant for a night out? And the answer comes back, maybe with Anthony Fauci's Brooklyn accent. No, not yet. We're not done. It's kind of like that pirate shirt that I've seen in Provincetown that proclaimed the beatings will continue until morale improves. That. The last 6 months of an interim time are the ones where the religious leader turns figuratively toward the door. I have done that emotionally, as I recognize that, like John, after June 30th, the story of First Parish in Bedford will be one that is written without me. As you start to examine what the story of this congregation will be in these next years, I want to echo two things that John has raised in his comments, which feel particularly significant to me. First, John has been part of the story of this congregation for 30 years. That is a very long time. And this congregation has been fortunate to have made such a good match with your senior minister, and he with you. He has many elements of pure genius, including his passionate engagement in justice causes, his ability to get the blood out of the proverbial turnip, his charm at cajoling and encouraging engagement and support for a myriad of causes, and many more things. This congregation has benefited from John's talents, and you have also relied on his ability to fix things, to cause things to happen, to resolve issues or impediments so that programs can move forward. And he will be gone in July and not there to fix them any longer. So it will be your call, your responsibility, as it should be in a UU faith community, to understand that this is your congregation, your programs, your call as to what stays or goes, what you focus on or take a pass on. Congregations cannot exist without the effort of its members and friends to lead and support and cast a vision for the future. Now is the time for you to imagine what the next years will hold for you. And you have relied on John to be there. He has blessed your children, helped you mourn those who have died, shown up at your bedside when you were ill, and made countless phone calls that begin with, "John Gibbons here." He knows the art of ministry by walking around and has done that with brilliance at Carlton Willard, in hospital corridors, outside on the common during COVID testing, and in so many other places. And hard as it is, it will be your job to let him go. And tough as it is, he has to do that as well. And what else? As concerns faith development particularly, transitional religious leaders are cautioned not to begin programs during their time with a congregation that are not sustainable. We are called on to focus toward what will be in the present interest of the congregation, both for the time we are present and the time that follows. In working with this congregation to reimagine what faith development looks like now and in the days to come. We identified core values that can sustain faith development for children, youth, and adults in this congregation. The program we offer now is based on those values. We have come through this time relatively well with our programs running and staffed, although the staffing is very thin. And kids and families are showing up for them, whether they are outside, as was the case this fall, or now on Zoom. That is a blessing, and I have said this before, our program is the envy of many other congregations who could not make this kind of programming happen. And yet, we have taken a number of hits that it will take time and vision to recover from. We have 75% of the faith development registration that we had last year, and we are darned lucky to have that. A number of families do not have the emotional energy, nor kids the endurance or focus to spend more time on Zoom. Many families are hanging on by a virtual or emotional thread, just trying to make it through to the vaccine or the change in health statistics that will get them through. No amount of programming, no matter how good it is, can change that. The teachers and advisors and mentors who have stepped in, because many of those overwhelmed families have people in them who were our teachers, our heroes, and to them, I say thank you. We literally could not do this without you. And as you look to the future, you need to focus on thinking about what kind of programs you want, and then find the staffing that will sustain them. It's pretty formulaic, but it also takes all of you, as with any part of a vital congregation, to make it so. So that's it. My key thoughts on what the state of the union is from my vantage point. So far, so good, as John says. But don't count on taking a nap, friends. As that UU hymn reminds us, prophetic church, the future waits your liberating ministry. Go forward into the next chapter, empowered by vision, commitment, and yes, the willingness to show up, even if much of the landscape looks different, as it will. It's still your spiritual home, and you have a place here. Blessings.
Thank you so much, Deb. As you can see from the order of service, I had initially thought that we might stay together and face your questions or your comments as part of the service. Deb and I are the short-termers around here for staff, but you've also got some longer-termers like Annie Gonzalez-Milliken and Brad Connor, and also Dave Southard, I believe, is with us, the president of our board. And so what I'm going to suggest is after the postlude, let's all stay together and we will take hands and give an opportunity for your comments or your questions on the state of our union. And so without further ado, Brad, would you rush over to the piano, please? And with Robert, bang out, joyful, joyful, we adore thee.